So, all right, here's what we got for some questions, just a few of them today. Mark, let's start with one for you. Why are they not building more homes in San Diego if we're so underbuilt?
Land. There's not enough of it. When I started in Temecula back in the 80s, and just overabundance of land, and those were just incredible days. And I've focused in San Diego probably for the last 20 years, 25 years, specializing on coastal properties. And there really are no large subdivisions left. Number of factors. Is if we've all followed the news and we've seen what happened to a number of these master plan communities. New land development up there in Escondido got shut down. It's a real tough situation out there right now because these developers, want to build homes. They want to build some affordable homes. A good portion of the development, is going to be, some affordable product in there. But you've just got, I hate to use this word, but it's true. You got a lot of NIMBYs out there that just don't want a development in their backyard. And the development community is scared to death right now about taking a map out for public vote if they can't get city council approval. We saw that happen in Newland. We saw it happen to Lilac Road out there in Valley Center. Number of projects are in trouble, and they probably won't get built. Look what happened to Zephyr Partners in Del Mar on their big hotel project. They had to go out to the public, and it got shut down. So there's a shortage of land because there isn't any land left, and the only land left is East County. And trying to get the zoning out there for high density, medium density, it's a major challenge, and a lot of developers don't want to go through the headache and then run the risk of going out for a public vote and getting turned down after they've spent millions of dollars in option money and entitlement money. So here along the coast, there just isn't anything left. There's maybe a few old nurseries left, nothing of significant size like we saw 10, 15 years ago. And as the land prices went up, so did, the cost of the buyer. So I think we're starting to see some realistic sellers. They may have other properties that they're in trouble with, and hopefully they'll get realistic. But I call it an educational period for them to understand, if they're overpriced. So we don't have any land. We have a shortage of land. That's why we have a shortage of housing.
Yeah. What is it that you're seeing that could be changed, could be modified to start repurposing areas that are not, and let's say not East County, let's say, central San Diego, San Diego proper, further up the coast. What are you seeing that would need to be done to start repurposing properties or land that is zoned for commercial, zoned for industrial? What potential do we have in that regard?
Well, because there's very little land left, and especially along the coast. And it's a good word you use, repurposing. I see developers trying to get into these urbanized areas, higher density areas, and the cities, I feel, need to relax their codes, and especially building heights. The city of San Diego has gotten very aggressive about density and how high you can go. And you can build downtown right now without even having parking requirements, as long as you are very close to public transportation. We need that. We need more of that. If you've ever been to Vancouver, there's a good example of good planning. You go to the city, they got high rise and everything, but if you go out to their subdivisions, you go out to their communities, you also see more high rises, businesses. So they've been very good about living in the same community. I'd like to see more of that here. But again, you've got people who live here along the coast and they don't want a 4, 5, 6 story, multifamily building next to them. It's a real challenge.
Yeah.
You can't go east because of zoning changes and having to go out to the public for a vote, and then trying to get the property owners in the cities to relax the building heights so you can put more units in there. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's almost catch-22. Yeah.
For sure. All right. Let's get the next one. All right. This one is, how has the housing market shifted with the pause button being hit for the last 2 months? I think that in general, we've pretty much walked through that today.
Yeah.
It absolutely, it was a pause button. The people that were buying and selling properties were ones that needed to buy and sell properties. That's the people that we're working with, that were out actively selling properties, helping them buy. That's basically what we're seeing. We've been covering this for a while. That's a pretty straightforward one. Let's do a few more. Go ahead.
Let me say that you hit on this point. Yes, you being in the residential sector really need to do, and all of you in that profession need to get out and get word out. I'm very encouraged by these graphs that I saw today, because I'm not in the trenches in the residential single-family homes like you are, but it sounded very encouraging. And yeah, you've got some sellers actually took their properties off the market, from what I heard. They were scared. Oh, there's no buyer out there, and I don't want to sell right now. Well, so those people need to get those homes back on the market. And and the data that you are sharing with all of us today, that needs to get out. People need to see that. Wow, this is a great time to put my house on the market because there are buyers out there.
Yeah.
So that was encouraging. Glad I saw that.
Yep. No, you're right about we had probably 3 or 4 listings that they pushed the pause button as soon as this happened. And so they're slowly starting to come back on. I think 1 or 2 of them have been on and they're gone. So interesting. All right, got a few more. When are in-person open houses going to resume? That's a great question. I would argue that they're good to go now as long as we have less than 10 people, but apparently the San Diego Association of Realtors disagrees with me, or maybe I disagree with them. They definitely make the rules, not me. So when the local board says, okay, that's basically when I think we're going to be looking at it. I think that's coming into the liability issue there also. So that's relatively straightforward. Why aren't we seeing home prices drop yet? The last couple of weeks, we really dug into that, but I'll give you the 2 easiest data points that I'm seeing. Number 1 is the home equity that people have, right? It's a number we've been talking about for a while. 177 grand is the average amount of equity in a home in the United States that has a mortgage. We take a 25% hit to that, which is 5% more than what we had in 2008. They still have $125,000 to $135,000 worth of equity. They are not walking away from that. The problem that we had in 2008 is people owed more on the property than it was worth. That's not the situation today. If somebody has $100,000 worth of equity in their house and they're in a position due to job loss or illness or whatever it is that they are not able to continue to make the payments, they're not going to let the bank foreclose on it. They're not going to short sale the property. They're going to call me. They're going to put the house on the market and they're going to sell it at market value. And they're going to take their 125 grand and move on. So we're simply in a very, very different position than we were going into 2008. Some of the others we're underbuilt, especially in San Diego. We've been talking about that here for the last 10, 15 minutes. But across the country, we are underbuilt. Right? So those are just 2 of the main ones. I think next week we'll have to get a lot more into that. So let's do 2 more. I'm going to do another short one for me, Mark, and I got a really kind of a longer one that I really want you to go on here for a second. So the last question that's kind of a general residential, how easy is it to get physically into a property to see? It really is up to the seller. It is something that is starting to get relaxed more and more, but it is 100% up to the seller. We're not seeing very many situations where somebody's going to have to write an offer in order to get in. I think we're seeing that pretty much above the $2, maybe $3 million price point. So that's kind of at where we're seeing with, how easy is it to get into a home. A lot of the virtual tour, the video tour, the 3D tours, the pictures, everybody's going to have to start there, drive by the property, take a look at the neighborhood. If it looks good, then we'll figure out how to make something happen. All right. So let's go. Last question, Mark. This is kind of, I'm going to just let you go on this. So you could go for probably 2 minutes or probably 20. Let's keep it closer to 5, maybe. So is it less expensive to buy land and build versus buying something that was already built? And if it's not less expensive, why on God's green earth do people do that?
Good question. Typically, it's not. There's a lot of factors in buying a lot and building a home on it. The cost of the dirt, one thing, and then I don't want to use the word entitlement because obviously the lot is zoned for a home on there already, but you've got to hire an architect, an engineer, you got to get a construction loan, just a lot of parts in there. Obviously you have to qualify. You probably are looking at least 200 to 250 a square foot for sticks and bricks for a new home. If you wanted some nice stuff in it, just to give you an idea, that's sticks and bricks. If you hire a general contractor who will go out and hire all your subs, then that costs more. So typically, I think it's more economical unless you want a brand new home, design it by yourself, and just the way you want it. It's cheaper to buy an existing home and maybe rehab it. I think, or a new home that a builder just did, that just built a small subdivision if you can find it. There's still a couple good opportunities out there, but I've run the numbers on. I have a good friend of mine who's always out there looking for a piece of dirt for us to build a duplex or fourplex, and every time I crunch the numbers, it based on what the seller's asking, it doesn't make sense. By the time we factor in, the cost to design it and build it out and get a loan on it, we were better off finding an existing one. So it's not always the most efficient way from the ground up.
Yeah. Right. Now, I've a couple clients that are actively, one is very much into building a dream house, and she's looking at something that's 10 to 15,000 square feet, which not a whole ton of those floating around here. I have another couple other clients who are very interested in land. All three of them wanted to take a very, very interesting approach to making this process happen. And so here, let me share with you how I counseled them, and then you tell me how you would modify this if I should go back and modify my guidance to them. So a lot of them simply started by going, I want to find a piece of land. And that was step number one, to which I counseled them that needs to probably be step number 3, right? Step number 1, if you're building a dream home, you need to hire an architect. They need to actually design the dream home for you. And that's going to cost you, if you're actually going full custom, $10, $50, $100,000 for the architect. You can buy pre-made plans online for, a home that's already been designed for a couple grand, right? But here's the other part that people aren't understanding. That $50,000 you're paying an architect to design your dream home, you can't finance that. That's out of pocket. And then the second step that I'm telling them is, you have the plans, now go find a contractor and a designer and determine what you actually want in the house. Do you want the cool quartz countertops? What type of flooring do you want? What type of windows? What is the house actually going to be built of? And that, again, that's not going to be a huge expense necessarily, but that is 2 things that have to be done. You got to know what the house is even going to cost. And then from there, let's go find a piece of land that we can build that on, right? And then it's into applying for loans, right? You have the loan for the land, and then you have the loan for the construction loan. And through that entire process, you're basically going to have to write a business plan that you're going to hand over to a bank, because they're going to underwrite every single person that's involved in this, from the architect to the designer to the builder to the contractor to the subs to the buyer. And once you get through all that, okay, cool. Now you can buy the land and build the house. So you tell me, am I on the right track? What am I missing there?
No, you're not missing a thing. You're absolutely, you hit it right on the button.
Okay.
There's a lot of parts involved, and I would not recommend anybody go out and tie up a piece of land until they've done their own underwriting on what you just mentioned. You don't go out and tie up a piece of land and then go out and find your architect, find your engineer. I built custom homes back in the early 80s, and I finished up after a couple of years. I moved there. This is when interest rates were 17%, but I moved to a ski resort in New Mexico called Ruidoso, and I built some beautiful custom homes back there. And I found some really nice drawings from a book. So instead of hiring a draftsman or an architect, which would have cost me a small fortune, I got one of those books and I found some gorgeous brick and glass homes. It cost me a couple $100, and I gave it to a draftsman, and he got those plans from the company, and it saved me a lot of money. I mean, you could do that. That is something to consider, but absolutely, don't start with the land. Go out. If you really want to build a custom home, go find an architect, find an engineer, go to the city, find out what the fees will be, what we call impact fees, your building permit, sewer permit. You got all those little, what we call impact fees. Get those numbers together. Like you said, you got to put a budget together. You got to underwrite this thing, put a marketing plan together, and hopefully you're qualified to go out and get a construction loan. Yep. Then you got to go out. Then you got to figure it. In my business, in the construction business, this is how a builder evaluates what they're going to pay for the land, what they can afford to pay for the land. They say, okay, we're going to build these homes, X square footage, and this is what the cost is. It's considerably less than what a single individual person would go out and pay if they hire a general contractor. These builders, when they build in volume, they get big discounts. You're maybe 150 a square foot versus 200. And what they do is, so they'll go ahead and say, okay, we can build, this is what the cost of the home is what we're going to be selling it for. Here's what the cost of the land is to improve. We call site improvement cost. So that's to take that raw piece of dirt and turn it into a finished lot, a finished subdivision with all your backbone and everything like that. So they add up all those costs. That will tell them what they can afford to pay the land. That will tell them what the residual land value is. And that's what somebody that's looking for an individual custom home has to do. Get all those costs up front, and that'll tell you what you should be out there looking for, what price point for the lot. You start there instead of finding the lot first.
Yeah. Now, what do you say? So I explained this to one of the 3 clients that I was mentioning, and she came back with, and this was not the massive, 15,000 square foot home. They're aiming at, I think, somewhere around the 5, maybe 6,000 square foot. So definitely a big home. They are okay with having a smaller house, maybe even down to 2,500, because what she said is the location is the most important. They want to find a piece of land, and then they're willing to build what they can on that, which is an interesting approach. What would be a couple of the big pitfalls that you've seen in your experience taking that approach to it?
I don't think that's the way to go. I mean, you spend $1 million on a lot, to build that size home, and then you decide, you know what, we don't have the money to build a 5,000-6,000 square foot home. Maybe we should build it. We can only afford to build a 25. We may not be able to build a 2,500 square foot home because the CC&Rs, first thing that came to my head when you mentioned you've got a client 6,000 square foot house. Del Mar Mesa is a beautiful place. It's been very active. I brokered several subdivisions up there, and there's some beautiful big 6, 7, 8,000 square foot homes up there. You're going to pay a lot for the dirt for the lot if you can find it, but then you got to build a big home, is what I'm saying. That area is conducive to those kind of homes. You can't go and build a 25 or 3,000 square foot house up there.
That'd be interesting if someone tried to pull that one off.
Yeah, I know.
Build a small little 1,500 square foot.
I hate to see someone build $1 million, spend $1 million on a lot, and then all of a sudden they're told, sorry, you can't build that house that you had planned.
Yeah, no, that's actually Del Mar Mesa is one of the 2 or 3 areas they're most interested in. So yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mark, I think we're coming to an end. Is there anything you want to add here as we're coming to an end?
Not really. You know, after looking at your charts today, I was pleased to see that the single-family residential sector is bouncing back. I'm still very bullish and optimistic about San Diego, and I concur with you that I think the housing market is going to get us out of this, help us recover quickly. It's going to be the leading, you know, profession that's going to get us going. So I'm optimistic about that. I just on the commercial sector, we're gonna see some.
See a little bit of a bloodbath, maybe.
Yeah, I see a bloodbath in some areas. I really do. But you're doing well, and I think you're going to continue doing well. I always have a shortage of land myself, so I'm always on the hunt for good land. My clients need land. There's a shortage of it.
I can
They
understand
need
that.
more housing. Need more affordable housing too. That's the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ryan,
All right.
thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet, Mark. I appreciate you taking the time out of your Friday afternoon and joining us.